over Labor Day, I had a friend come up and we did a couple projects, and one of those was clearing all of the brush from around the pond. So normally every summer I rent a mini excavator. I have enough projects that I can justify renting it for a week. I've done videos in the past on renting mini excavators. You can go check those out, but I think I've gotten halfway decent at operating them now. And so anyway, he came up and we had a couple projects to do. We got to pick the excavator up on Saturday morning, and what we're going to do is we're going to do some maintenance around the pond. So when we moved into this property in 2016, June of 2016, we decided that we were not going to maintain our drainage pond like the previous owner. So to give you a little bit of description of this pond, it is, I don't know the overall size, probably somewhere around, it takes up about an acre. Probably a quarter of it is over on our neighbor's property, and the neighbor's just fine. We've talked about all of this beforehand. And so basically when they dug this pond, it's kind of a water retention area. Instead of making the entire yard a swamp, it's just a place to hold water. And there's a large tile line. And so for those of you who don't know what a tile line is, it's basically a subsurface water drain. There's a large tile line that runs through our neighbor yard and our yard, and then goes underneath the road in front of our house and across the road to a creek about 1.5 miles away. And this tile line works really, really, really well. However, the water in the pond stays at a pretty constant level. It's basically groundwater level. Taking advantage of the drought that we've had this year, we decided that we would do some maintenance around the pond because it's easy to access. Some of that maintenance is going to be done by me, and some of it's going to be done by a hired company. In this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to clean out around the pond from the brush. And the reason all that brush is there is because when they put this pond in, the previous owner decided to put anywhere from 5 to 20 feet of rocks around this pond. Well, rocks make it extremely difficult to mow. And so at the same time, I just didn't feel comfortable using chemicals, particularly Roundup, to keep the weeds down from around the pond, and I don't have the time to weed whack it all. So it becomes really, really difficult to maintain, so we've just kind of let it grow up. Now, some of the wildlife that we've seen has been great. There's actually been deer coming to it. Fantastic. We had a pair of geese that I think they did three groups of goslings around the pond, and so when we just leave them alone, they don't bother us, we don't bother them. So it's really cool to see all that kind of stuff, and the stuff that's just popped up over the years. And by no means am I saying anything bad about chemicals, because I use enough Roundup and 2,4-D and stuff in the yard. I just didn't feel comfortable continually spraying that much that would be needed to maintain this pond, or around the pond. So we're going to have an excavation company come in and clear up around it and level it out and get rid of all the rocks. But to do that, we have to remove the trees, because it's cheaper for me to remove the trees, and we're also going to remove the bridge. So in the middle of this pond, there's an island, and the bridge goes to an island. You can walk on the bridge, but you can't get a piece of equipment across. I haven't maintained the island because I don't have time, and I'm not going to use a push mower or a weed whacker to maintain that much grass. So decided we're going to take out the bridge. So I'm going to let you watch this. We actually set up the GoPro to take down the bridge. I didn't do a lot of GoPro footage simply because if somebody's working with me, I'm not going to use their time to do videos. But enjoy me taking down the bridge. one thing I did want to point out is the fact that we had a short conversation about how to best bring it down, and we just decided to lay the whole bridge over on its side. Originally, we were going to try to drag it across, but we decided it was going to be too top-heavy. So that's just something to consider, and that's why I kind of decided to stop the video right here and before we proceed forward. All right, so now the bridge was down. Well, actually, I decided I would include the clip here of it falling over. And then probably the hardest part was actually getting the bridge. I'm guessing it weighed in excess of probably a ton. And you'll see that here in a little bit. Because what do you do with something that's about 40 feet long? So I threw it on Facebook to get rid of it, and I'll tell you that story here in just a minute. But yeah, probably the biggest thing that we had to do is actually getting it out of the pond and getting it wrestled up out of there. Then we just went ahead and drug it up to the driveway. But also all that wood that was on it, the fence and everything had to be burned. So we decided we would go ahead and start that process while we were dragging it out. So we had to get all of that out from the pond. Luckily, like I said, the pond was dry, so not too big of a challenge there. Getting it all out. The only thing we really left, we tried to take the excavator across the little the pond there to the island, and there was just no way we were going to be able to get the excavator across to get the base for the bridge on the island, as well as the two concrete supports for the guide wires. So what we did is we went and got a burn barrel, and we were going to burn it all in a burn barrel, but then we realized shortly after we got the burn barrel started that we had to burn all these trees. Now, keep in mind that because we've been in a drought, we didn't want a fire that was too big. So we actually spent the better part of 2 days burning trees because we didn't want to just have a huge fire or anything, but we did get it all burned up. So what we decided to do is we went ahead and took a lot of the rocks around that were big enough to pick up with the excavator. What we're going to do with the rest of the rocks is we're actually going to bury them. There is some value there in those rocks. However, getting the value out of them is not worth anybody's time. So what we're going to do is they're going to hire an excavation company to come in, and they're actually going to take an excavator, go all the way around the pond, use a bulldozer, dig a hole off to what would be the right of the screen. After they dig the hole, they're going to shove all the rocks in it, fill it back in, and then they will go ahead and take all of the silt out of the bottom of the pond, because the pond's been there probably 10 to 15 years. They're going to take all the silt out of the bottom of the pond and use that as a base for grass on the bank. So that is what they're going to do there. So you can't see it because of the tree off to the left-hand side of the screen, but we actually did clear a lot of the trees running down what would be the north face of the pond. That's the side that faces the road. You can see the excavator now. Sorry, I didn't zoom in just because I want to see everything. But you can see we just used the 4066 and the E35, loaded everything up on the forks of the 4066, and took them to the burn pile. And like I said, we burned them over 2 days just because we didn't want the fire to be too big at any one time. So to give you the backstory on the bridge, what we decided to do is I didn't want to cut it up or anything, and I figured somebody could use it, so I dropped it on Facebook, and we'll just say the interest was a little overwhelming, and basically gave a couple of folks an ultimatum of you had to be here by 5 to pick it up. Some guy, he ended up driving, the guy that's in the driveway now, he ended up driving, I think, an hour and a half to come get it. So we pulled it up to the house, the driveway in front of the house. And what we're going to do, because no machine had the capability, just because of its overall, not necessarily weight, but its overall size, to lift it safely. So what we decided to do is put the 4066 under one end and put the excavator on the other end, and then he pulled forward and backed the trailer underneath it, and we got it set on the trailer. And because fortunately this was about a 32 or 35 foot trailer, tandem duals, really nice trailer, and we got it loaded up on the trailer, and he took off. Really happy that somebody got some use of it. He actually sent me a picture. He used it to cross a little creek or creek, depending on where you're from. He used it to cross that, and he said it took him about an hour to get it into place, and so now it is getting more use. And I just simply could not come up with a reason to keep the bridge around. If I had cut it up, probably would have set out and the I-beams would have rotted away before I had a use for them. And I figure if I could have obviously sold it for scrap, but if somebody's going to get use out of it, that's obviously my preferred method. So he got it all strapped down and chained down and put a flag on the back because it was well over the length of his trailer, and took off. So here we are on day 2. We more or less finished burning everything from the first day, getting everything cleaned up. I had to take all the tin off of the wood for the shed, stuff like that. Don't have a video of that. So now we're going to go around the back side of the pond. So this would actually be the neighbor's side of the pond, talk to the neighbor, and he said, yeah, sure, go down the back side of the pond. I would really like to grade around the entire pond. Unfortunately, basically I think that the estimate right now is about $300 an hour for the excavation equipment. Just don't have that kind of funds to do the entire pond. So we're just going to focus on our side, and I'll try to do a walk around. But the E35, even though it's a mini excavator, so it weighs about a little over 7,000 pounds, does such a nice job peeling up trees this size. And more or less, we're just going to kind of run around the the backside of the pond there. All total, so basically the video you're watching right now is about an hour worth of time lapse from the start of the day 2. So basically from the start of this clip, it's about an hour. It took us about an hour to go around the backside of the pond, which I don't think is half bad, given the fact that we don't do this all the time. I did about half of it. My friend did the other half. Had a lot of fun. And what you'll see here, the wind actually changed direction where our burn pile was at. You'll start to see the smoke. It'll kind of obscure the view. But ultimately, hopefully this project helps us maintain the yard a little bit better. It's been very difficult. It's been hard for me not to do anything down by the pond and let it grow up like it is. But at the same time, it all relates to time. When you only have so many hours in a day, and I'd much rather focus on projects that I can do and make things easier. Hopefully that's what this is going to do. We did get some good rocks out of it, good large landscaping rocks. One was about all the 4066 wanted to lift, so I'm guessing it was 2,500 to 3,000 pounds. I'll try to get a video of that later. But overall, there's a smoke that I was talking about. But overall, we did a lot of small projects with the excavator. I posted a picture about a propane tank a few weeks ago that I purchased. I got that placed next to our other propane tank. Little things like that. I did a lot with it. Next year, the excavator is we have a silo base in the driveway. And so our project next summer, in preparations for concreting the driveway, is going to be taking out that silo base. So when we rent the E35 next summer, I will rent it one day with a hydraulic jackhammer. Hydraulic jackhammers are $200 a day, so I'll only have that for one day. In fact, it'll probably be a separate pickup middle of the week where I have the excavator. I excavate the silo base, and then I chip out the silo base. I take the hydraulic hammer back, and then I do everything else that I need to do. So overall, really excited about the projects that we did this year. Sorry I didn't get more videos of it. Like I said, I feel like when I have somebody helping me do stuff, I can't take the time that I often do to take videos. Not that it takes a lot of time to take videos, but I just don't feel like I should spend the time to slow us down when we're doing projects. If I have somebody's help, I just don't feel like I should slow us down. If you have questions, comments, these are little projects that you can do. And as I've mentioned numerous times, running an excavator, if you're looking at, so say for instance, like a backhoe for my 4066, the question's been asked several times of me. It's like, why didn't you get a backhoe for the 4066? A backhoe for the 4066 was $12,000 to $14,000 from what I remember. I can rent this little excavator for $900 a week. When I first started, it was $700 a week. Obviously, it's gone up over time. But you can rent a excavator for a lot of years before you pay for one of those backhoes. And in terms of usability, the mini excavator is much more has a much greater ability than a backhoe for, say, a 4066 or a 2 or 3 series or even a 1 series. It can pick up, it can move a 3,000-pound rock. It can't pick it up, but it can definitely move a 3,000-pound rock. We did a lot of that. So hope you enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions, comments, leave them below. Thanks for watching.